Hello there, I am Carol the Crafty Grandma, and today we are going to finally finish up our Veterans Day quilt. Whoa! Whoa! All right, that was all kinds of fun. Woo! All right. See, this is what happens when I do things on days when I'm not planning on originally doing things. I just get all befuddled. All right, sorry about that. That was my phone that I used to record, and I thought I had turned the volume off, and it turns out I hadn't. But we've got that all taken care of. Okay, so here we are. We have our Veterans Day quilt. Basically, my theory was this is a tree, these are branches, and there are the 5 branches that I could get fabric for. Unfortunately, there was no fabric for the Space Force, but as I said on part 1, there's not really any veterans this year. It's currently 2021, so the veterans haven't started yet. The Space Force exists, but they haven't got anyone that they're nobody's leaving quite yet. At least not that I'm aware of. I could be wrong, because I know that they did get a bunch of people from the Air Force, so it's possible. I don't know. Either way, I couldn't find any fabric. I have sent an email to the company that makes this fabric, the fabric that I used, to request it so that hopefully next year, and if I come up with something different, I can use that. I did mention during one of the 2 parts, I don't remember which one it was, or it could have even been an earlier video when I was thinking about it, there's a square that you can make it looks like a bow tie. It's got 2 ends and then it's got a thing around the middle. And I'm thinking about doing that with some other fabric I have, but that I don't have any Coast Guard for. It's Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. So there's no Coast Guard for that. This, at least, pattern had the Coast Guard. All right, so today we are going to put our border on, and then we are going to quilt and bind our fabric, or quilt and bind our quilt. As I've mentioned on other parts to this video, it's a very long quilt, so I consider it to be more of a wall hanging. And I guess if you wanted to, you could use it if you had a long table. You could use it as a long table runner. But I'm thinking of it more as a wall hanging. Right now, I have backing trimmed out that gives where I could put a 4-inch border on either side. I don't think I'm going to go that far. 2 3/4 inches is what I have written down here, and I'm certain that's because that's how wide it was. Yes, the strips here are 2 3/4 inches wide. So our branches are 2 3/4 inches wide. If I double that, that gives me 4. No. That would give me a 5.5 inch border if I doubled it. And I don't want to go that wide. I know I don't want to go that wide. So So I think I might go with the 4-inch border. That was what I trimmed this up for and trimmed that up for. So let's do that. I'm going to do the sides first and the top and the bottom second, because the fabric I'm using says I love USA across it, and I want the top and the bottom to have it straight across and not have any interruptions with seams or anything. All right, so I need to know how long it is. I have a tape measure here. I know I do. There we go. Okay, top to bottom. 48 3/4. And I have mentioned on this channel before that a lot of times I cut my border, unless I'm using a pattern that I'm trying to show you how it works, I cut my borders after I get them done, and then I cut them a little long so that I can trim them and square them up. I found that that's easier for me to do. There are others, I believe, that may not do it that way. But for me, that seems to work better. All right, so this is my salvage, by the way, on this particular fabric. And I think I ended up buying, 2 yards of it, and I wasn't paying attention when I was tearing it, and I ended up tearing a lot more than I needed. But let's do this. So each side is going to need a 4-inch border. So that means I need a total of 8 inches. Since I tore one side of this fabric already, and I have to say they printed it very well, I am going to tear it at 8.5 inches so that I can cut it. Actually, before I do that, let's do it the width. So 50 inches is what I need. Okay, this is 34. 44. And that's about 50. And again, I'm cutting it long, so that way I can trim it up later. And I do not know if this is going to be wide enough. It is not, so I'm going to have to pull out the rest of the fabric and hope I didn't totally screw myself. All right. This is not going to be usable on this quilt. It'll be usable somewhere else. It's the perfect size for somewhere else, but just not here. Okay, and then there's my 8 inches. Okay, then this, again, not usable on this quilt, but it'll make a really nice border for something else. Maybe like a placemat. All right, here we go. And it doesn't need to be ironed. It's all very well. No real wrinkles in it anywhere, so that's cool. Oh, there's a wrinkle. Yeah, it's right smack dab in the middle. That's weird. Alright, make sure everybody's even on either side. Oops. Forgot the seam. So we're going to have a 3 3/4 inch wide border, which works because it's 2 3/4, so it's an inch wider than that. Wasn't exactly my intention, but hey, it's going to work. Okay, so we trim off the excess. Turn the fabric this way, and this ruler is exactly 4 inches wide. So we line it all up. One. And 2. Okay, so what I did wrong was I tore the fabric for the border at 8.5 inches. Because I said, well, I'm going to make a 4-inch border, so I need 8 inches. That is wrong. I need 8.5. And with the stuff that cut the way it was, I wasn't going to get 8.5. So cut it to 4 inches, so now my border's only going to be 3 3/4 inches wide. That may or may not help with my fabric issue later on. Okay, I have thread all over my finger. So I am going to take both borders to the sewing machine. And I am going to take my quilt. And then I'm going to take all of you with me. Ooh, that's sitting cockeyed, isn't it? That's a little better. Okay. I don't have lights on. There we go. I don't know if it helps you guys see anything better on the camera, but it definitely makes it so I can see better here at the machine. Okay. Needle in the down position. Everybody's good to go. So this fabric says, I love USA. And it says it both directions. So it doesn't matter which way I put it. I don't have to worry about whether it's right side or wrong side. Upside down, right side up. It says it the same way. Or it says it both directions. Now, I did give myself extra cutting or extra fabric. We talked about that. But I don't want to go too crazy. And now that I think about it, I didn't need my feeder fabric, did I? Duh. All right. So let's line it up. Now you have to remember there are seams along the way. So you want to make sure you keep your seams going in the direction that they were when you started. Whoa. All right, that's a thick seam. So we're going to need to tug just a little bit. There we go. Don't push or pull your fabric through the machine unless you have a little hiccup like we had just a second ago. And even then, you do it as minimally as possible. Now we have another one of those seams coming up where all the triangles joined, so I'm going to try and avoid having the problem this time. Alright, and then we get another one of those thick seams. Should have been paying attention. I saw it was coming up and I thought I could get over it, and nope, I should have used the stiletto. Okay, here's another one. Last one on this side. Come on. There we go. I have never had that time out better. Let's see here. Yep, that bobbin is pretty much dead. But like I said, I've never had it work out where it dies right at the end of a seam. That's cool. Usually it's just almost at the end and you're like, really? Speed. This skinny thread does not catch very well in the bobbin. Not all of you are going to have bobbins that need to catch. On this brand of machine, at this level, they've got special bobbins that you tighten the thread up on, and since this is really skinny thread, it doesn't always work right. It doesn't always catch as well as it should. Alright, bobbin goes back in. Oh, and not all of you can wind your bobbin from your needle. This machine has these bars here so that the thread doesn't get caught, and therefore I can wind my bobbins from my needle. You'd have to check with your machine to see if it has that ability or not. A lot of them do not. It may be something that they've gotten better at doing over the years. This machine is 14 years old, somewhere in that vicinity. And I know some of the newer ones do fancier, dancier things. So you have to check, but this machine does have the ability to wind the bobbin from the needle, so I take advantage of that. Okay, second side. Again, don't leave too much hanging off the edge, but leave a little bit so that you can trim it off later. Make sure you're lined up, and then here we go again. Well, we got over the first big hump. Let's see how we do on the other 5. Here's another one. Alright, this next one's really tall. Or thick, I can feel it. So we're gonna there we go. That one's trying to flip around. That's a thick one too. Let's take our time. All right. Okay, time to press. Yeah, there we go. I got my cameras all messed up today. I'm gonna put that out of the way. There's no cat sleeping in there, so we can move it out of the way. That we're gonna need later. See, this is what happens when I start making big stuff. If you've seen me at all, you know I hate making big stuff. I like making little stuff. But I knew what I wanted this to be, and I just have to suffer through it because I really think it's going to turn out nice. If I had made the squares any smaller, I wouldn't have gotten the icons on there. It would have not looked right. So it had to be this size. I had no choice. And then we're going to look at the borders and see if they look too wide. And if they do, then we'll trim them down. And you're like, wait a minute, but they're already attached. They are. But if I don't like how wide they are, I can always still trim them down with a rotary cutter. Like I said, since I messed up, they're exactly 1 inch wider than the stripes, or than the, I guess they're stripes, of the military fabric on the inside. So I think it's going to look okay. We're going to have to just wait and see. Because it may be that this quilt looks better with a narrow border. I don't do narrow borders very often, but I've done them on a couple different things where I want a border because I want something to be there, but I don't want it to detract from the actual quilt, which may be how we end up with this one. All right, remember, don't start your finger press on the very edge. Start it away, that way it all gets pressed out even. Are you on? Yes, you're on. It just doesn't seem to want to be working right today. It looks like it's not pressing well. Probably just my imagination. Now, and I am pressing towards the border, by the way. I always press towards the border. It just makes sense since the quilt always has seams in it that match up to the border. I always press to the border. Now, my problem that I was worried about is showing up because the blue and the red are not the same on this fabric as was used throughout the rest of the quilt. Hopefully it doesn't bother me too much. We'll see. All right, let's try the second side, and we'll see how it came out. Hang it up, step back, look at it. All that stuff that takes up time, and you're like, why? Why do you do this? It's just because I do. Something's buzzing, like I got a text message or something. And everything should be off now. I don't understand. Alrighty. Now Now it's time to starch the seam. We're almost there. We are almost there. All right. Now, let's hang it up and see how it came out. I know I still have to move the iron. All right, let's get this stuff out of the way. See, from your perspective, you can barely see what it says, so it doesn't look that bad. Let me see. That's on the camera. Let's see, from back here, from where the camera is, I can at least read the I Heart USA part of it. I don't know if it looks busy or not. Let's see. Let's zoom in. Let's see. There we go. Yeah. It's not well focused. And I'm not walking all the way back to the other side of the room to get it to fix. So, all right, I think it looks okay. I think the colors, it's not too bad with the colors. I was afraid, like I said, I was afraid that the blue and the red that were on here would look weird with the blue and the red because they don't match. That red and that red don't go together. But it's not so terrible that I hate it. So we're going to go with it. Now, to trim it down, I need a longer ruler. Let's get this out of the way. What did I do with my long ruler? No, it wasn't that far away. It was right here. There we go. Water, pencils. I need that. Okay. So I'm going to take this down. We're going to shift this all over here so I can actually reach. And then put that on here. Okay. So if I had a quilt that was really wide, this I would have to fold it in half and do all sorts of measuring and things like that. This is long enough or short enough that I can use my ruler. Now it is agreed, it is my long ruler that I don't enjoy using as much, but I can use it. And then I line up on a seam. So in this case, I've got it at 6 inches. It doesn't matter. It's whatever fits. Lined up on the seam. And then since the quilt was, I don't remember how wide it was, but it wasn't an even number. We're not quite on the seam up there. Close, but not quite. And then we'll line up the edge of the ruler with the fabric. There we go. So we've got the border there and the border here hanging off. We trim it all down. Did we cut any of the actual quilt off? Let's see. A little bit. Got a little bit of fuzz out of there. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Alright, I'm having a technical problem, so let's do this. And then I have to fix something on my tablet. You go back over here. Alright, and let's go there. And I have to go grab something in the other room. So I'll be right back. All right. Guess I don't have to do anything. Oh, and you guys are hearing me mumble to myself. I wasn't thinking. Oops. Let's get that and move technology over here. Otherwise, we're not going to have a video here shortly. There we go. And you stay live. I'm going to mess around here. So that's going to stop for a minute. And now project settings, that's what I wanted. And I want to move the project to here and save. Yes. There we go. Technology is thinking. Okay. And now, there we go. All right. Now, someday I'm going to have to deal with that, and I don't know how that's going to work, but for right now, we've got it. All right, so we have this. Let us see if this fabric's wide enough. I don't think it is. It is not. Excellent. That's what I was afraid of. Dang. When I initially thought of it, it was the right size. Let's see. What are we vibrating for back out here? What technology is being difficult again? Let's see. That's not. Oh, that is on vibrate. That's what the problem is. Mute. Done. There we go. No more vibrating. Okay, back in here, find my fabric. Okay. So here's what I have. Oh, good. I have enough. That's probably not going to be wide enough. No, it's not. All right. I only need a little bit. I don't need a ton. So let's go over here. I need it that wide. And then I need just about, I need more than 8 inches because I'm going to have to trim it. So let's go with 10. Okay. So, where's my little clip here? There's my little clip there. Here's my little clip here. Okay. There we go. All right, off to the side. Oh, and Mary, I was able to comment because I had to walk out to the computer to find my other storage device. So I'll say thank you to you for saying you liked it. I very much appreciate it. All right, let's get our top and bottom border now. So we've got it torn there. And it needs to be 4 inches wide. Yeah, I keep thinking about putting a second tablet in here because I have to have this one on so I can switch my cameras. I could change my screen up here to be connected to my phone, but then it would be delayed. And now I see what I'm doing real time, and you aren't seeing what I'm doing real time. So, I don't know. I haven't decided how I can respond to comments appropriately yet. It's something it's a dilemma that I've been having, and I still haven't figured out how to solve that dilemma. But, all right. So, 4 inches, 4 inches wide. Trim off the frayed side. There's that. All right, 1 4-inch border. And 2 4-inch border. All right, I'm going to set that aside because it's really not enough to use in anything, but then again it might, so set it aside. All right, top and bottom border, so to the sewing machine we go again. All right, top. Where's the top? There's the top. Now, again, I don't care which direction the fabric is facing because I Love the USA is on both sides, so that's cool. Or it faces both directions, so that's cool. All right. And I don't need starter fabric because I've got long edges here. I do need my thread tail to go in the back. All right, there we go. Now, this time, because I put the 2 borders on, I do try and make sure that it stays straight as we go across. And of course, the bigger the quilt, the more stuff hanging off the side. There we go. Roll it up, get it out of the way a little bit. Okay. And as I've said before a million times, if you want to use pins, please. When I started quilting, I used pins all the time. They were my friend. I have tons upon tons of pins because I used to use them so much. And I'd run out. And I'd be like, I need more pins. So then I'd buy more pins. And I have boxes and boxes of them. Keep everything straight. Excellent. Okay, now let's roll the other way. There we go. And line it up. Make sure everything stays lined up. It is excellent. Okay, more start. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Everything is lined up. Alright. This way. There we go. Alright. Go. I think the border's too wide. I'm gonna wait till I get it up on the wall. I'm thinking it takes away from the military logos on the middle, but I could be wrong. I'll have to wait and see. Okay, let's trim off the borders. So I can go back to my littler ruler, because now we're just going to measure 3 3/4 inches. Here, hold on. So this border finished right now is 3 3/4 inches. So I'm making sure it's even there. I'm on the seam there, and I'm lined up on this seam here. So everything is square. Let's go to that. Hold on, can't see with the light. The blue fabric is dark and it's all blending together. There we go. And do the same thing over here. So actually this border, now that I've thought about it even longer, because obviously my brain isn't fully functioning, it will end up being 3.5 inches wide. Because you have to take away 1/2 inch, not 1/4 inch. I don't know where my brain was. Because the fabric was cut to 4 inches wide with one seam, the one seam it has right now. It's 3 3/4 inches wide. And once I sew the binding on, it will be 3.5 inches wide. All right. It's upside down. Let me hang it right side up. Let me get it up to the top. All right, now I need water. Let's get this out of the way. You look at it for a minute. I'm going to put water in here. Let's see. There. I have water. That makes me happy. Now let's pass back by the big screen and look at it. You know, I guess you can see the military logos. It doesn't look too bad because the I Heart USA is kind of small. I'm looking. Let's see if I do this. Does that work? No, that's not what I wanted. That's the button I wanted. Okay. You can see the logos. I think I'm okay with it. No, I'm okay with it. I'm looking at it. I'm okay. I don't need to cut the border down. Excellent. I mean, don't get me wrong. Once you get to this point, trimming down the border is no big deal. We've got it square, or rectangle. Squared would be the correct term. So if I wanted it narrower, I'd have to cut it all off. Now, that, of course, then becomes a waste of fabric, in my opinion, but yeah. But I think it's okay, because when I was looking at it further away, and I was looking at it on my phone that I use, which is a smaller screen, I could still see the differentiations of the Army logo. It says Navy right here. I could see that. I don't think it says it anywhere else, but that, because it's, I think that's because it's the white on the blue. It was bouncing out at my face. So I'm going to leave the border as it is. I'm good with that. Okay. So then, before we switch over to our walking foot and our quilting needle and our red, white, and blue 40 weight thread, which I don't think I've ever used 40 weight. I've always used 50, and then I use 60 for, yeah. It does specifically say on it, home machine, and it says long arm. So I'm not certain how it's going to work, but we're going to try. And if it doesn't work, then we'll have to use one of my other cotton threads. But anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. Before we can switch over our stuff, I want to get our binding made. So I'm going to use the same gray for the binding that I'm using for the backing. And this fabric is, it's not specifically made. I don't know how I should phrase it, but it's for backing. So it's 120 inches wide. Normal fabric is, normal quilting cotton is between 40 and 46 inches wide. This comes 120 inches wide. The only pattern I have ever found in this fabric is this pattern. I have this pattern in green, 2 different reds, a blue, and then this gray I just bought to go with this, because I didn't have enough of the blue, so I was going to need some anyway. And I'm going to use this as the binding, and this is one salvage edge, and the other salvage edge is nowhere to be seen because I've cut it off. It was, I think I used like 64 inches for the backing because I wasn't certain how big this was going to end up being. But so from this, I am going to cut out binding strips. I am going to use a 2 1/4 inch width binding. And I need to now find out how big this quilt is, excuse me, all the way around. All right, up here it is 19 3/4. And down here it is 19 1/2. Oh, no, 19 3/4. If I could measure right, I'd be dangerous. Good. So I just wanted to make sure that they were even on the top and the bottom. So 19 3/4 and 19 3/4. And then I am not tall enough to do this. We're going to see how this works out for us. All right. There's my 0. 56 1/2. $56 1/2. All right. So that is that's 1, 12, 13, 10, 11, and then that is 9. Well, that's not right. Oh, yeah, it could be. Yeah, that's right. All right, 0.00, 0, 5, 12, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the entire distance around is 152 1/2 inches. I then add on, well, I need 5, I know. If I add on 10%, that's another 15 inches. Well, let's see first. How long is what we have? That's the first thing, I guess. What do we have here? We have 34, 44, 45, 46. We have 47 inches in length. So we will now need the calculator. We've gotten past my interest in doing math all by myself. All right, calculator, where'd you go? There you are. All right, 152.5, oops, looks like 152.5 divided by 47. So this says we need 3.2 strips. I'm just going to cut 4 strips. Then I don't have to do any more math. So 4 strips. That's definitely going to give us more than we need, and that's fine. We're good with that. All right, I tore the fabric on this one side, so we can fold it over twice. I say that, and then the threads want to come loose, so come on. There we go. Fold you over once, and we make sure that the torn edge is straight, because we definitely still want to keep our fabric. Well, you know, actually there's 2 options here. If you would prefer to do a bias binding, you can do that too. That would be going at a 45-degree angle. I don't see it when you've got a straight edge quilt like this. I don't see it. I know a lot of people do that. I just don't see any reason for it. If, on the other hand, I was doing a circular quilt or something with rounded edges, I did some placemats. Sorry, I'm pointing to the pattern that's over there. And the placemats are oval. Those I did the binding on a bias because you need it to curve, and so it needs to stretch a little bit. When I'm doing straight edge quilts like this, I see no reason to do it on a bias. But if you want to, a lot of people do. That's why they do it at the 45-degree angle. I don't see any reason for it. All right, we are folded. We are even on our torn edge. We have our little ruler. Make sure edge is straight. There we go. All right, and I'm not cutting the selvage off because when we put the binding together, it's going to take care of the selvage later on. Normally I have 2 pieces of selvage. In this case I don't. I just have the one. But we're not going to mess with taking the selvage off because we don't need to. All right, 2 1/4 inches wide. There's 1. 2. 3. And 4. Okay. So now we'll move this out of the way. Beautiful. And this fabric has an obvious right and wrong side. May not be obvious from there, but let me show you. Here's the right side. Here's the wrong side. And you're going, well, they look the same. They're not quite the same. So this is the right side. This is the wrong side. And it's a little bit lighter, so I can tell. It's not as evident on the camera, but it is evident to me sitting here. If the fabric was identical on both sides, if it was the same color on both sides, then you have to pre-set up your binding with ironing and stuff. I don't have to do that because I know which side is right and which side is wrong. So we're good on this side, or this way. So now we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew the binding together. All right, so the right side of the fabric needs to face up. And again, I can tell here, I know you probably can't from there, but I can tell from here, this is the right side. And then I'm going to take one piece of my fabric, of my next fabric, and I'm going to face wrong side up. So we're going to do right sides together. And you don't want to go too far over. And you want to make, it's technically an L, but when it's pointed this way, it looks more like a V. And so you've got this side and this side. Doesn't matter which one's on top and which one's on bottom. It really doesn't. I always put this one on the top. That's just the way I do it. And then you don't want to sew through the middle of the V. You want to sew across the V. So when this side comes together and that side goes together, you're going to sew across. If you are so inclined, feel free to draw yourself a line and so make sure you go straight. I've done this a few gazillion times. I'm okay with going this way, and I don't use any feeder fabric because I don't really care. We're going to get folded anyway. Uh-oh. We got a mess up here. I don't know what just happened, but the thread got messed up. And it's not in, oh, yeah, it's not in the needle anymore. All right, so we're going to rethread the machine, because whatever happened, happened, and we don't like that. All right, there we go. Okay, let's try this again. Fabric. Okay, so now we're going to take this piece of fabric and we're going to flip it so that the right side is up. And we're going to take our next piece of fabric and we're going to take it so the right side is down. And we're going to make that V shape again. And now we're going to sew across this one. Again, if you want to draw a line, draw yourself a line. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes life easier. This is our last piece. We only have 4 for this particular quilt. Some quilts you can have, you know, depending on how big your quilt is, you can have a bunch of these to sew together. All right, twist. Right sides together again. Get you down here. Alright. Now, let's see, where are we? We're here. There we go. So we have 3 seams that we just sewed together. I'm going to clip. Oops, come on. There we go. Clip the threads. And then you can either take a pair of scissors and cut off the extra, because this is extra. This is going to go, this would go in the seam, and we want to get rid of it. Or I like to use a rotary cutter and trim it off, only because I have trouble seeing where 1/4 of an inch is, and I always end up cutting it too small, believe it or not. And then it just doesn't work well for me. So I like to use the rotary cutter and do that. And this was the 3rd one. There we go. And now look at what we have. So here's the edge. And we just get going and going. And one long piece of fabric. Cool, huh? All right. Now to make it into binding. Oh, by the way, and you can buy bias binding anywhere. I like to use fabric that's in the quilt. That's makes me happy. But you can also purchase it pre-made. No fussing, no mussing. All right, so I'm going to press my seam open. Normally when we quilt, we press to one side or the other, but we want the least amount of bulkiness that we can get. So if we had, let's say we had sewn the seam straight across instead of at an angle like we did. You'd have 4 layers of fabric all the way around. This we sewed at an angle. So now we separate the seam out, and that separates out the layers of fabric. And give me just a moment, and I will show you what I mean. Because I need to fold these over, because everything needs to be folded in half now. Oh, and a lot of people I watch, I've watched like online and stuff like that, they'll do this before they even start the quilt, before they start piecing. They'll cut this out at the very beginning and get it all taken care of. As you are probably aware, and if you're not, this is something you'll learn, sometimes I change my mind on things. So I like to do this at the end. I don't like to pre-cut out my backing and my batting and my binding because, I mean, just 5 minutes ago, I was debating whether I wanted to make that border narrower or not. So I don't like to waste fabric if I don't have to, and therefore I'm not going to pre-cut everything out to a size that I may or may not keep. That being said, as I mentioned earlier today, if I am doing a pattern that I'm specifically doing for you folks and that I'm going to follow the pattern as they've put forth, then I will pre-cut. But when I'm doing something that I've designed myself and I'm just winging it as I go, I don't like to pre-cut things because there's a chance I could change my mind. I hadn't actually decided for certain I wanted to use this gray as the binding until, well, I think I figured it out yesterday, but the day before yesterday. But definitely looking at how busy the I Love USA fabric is on the border, because that's what I was debating on using was the I Love USA, and yeah, I'm glad I didn't. I wouldn't have. That would have been way, way, way too busy. Okay, so I've got this folded. Let me go to the camera here and see if I can explain this. All right. So this fabric is going to be sewn onto the quilt and folded over the edge of the quilt so that the quilt does not have an unfinished edge. This will be the outside edge of the quilt. And if you look at it, we've pressed the fabric side to side, so now there's only a couple layers, and they're angled out, so they're not all on top of each other. So remember when we were sewing that quilt, the border on, and had a really, really thick piece. We're trying to avoid doing that whenever possible. So now we've spread out the fabric, the seam, and even when we fold it over, the seam, there's still going to be, that whole area between my fingers is going to be thicker, but it's not going to be as thick as if we had done a straight line all the way around. All right. I need to get these finished. All right, and that's why we fold it in half and press it, because that way our unfinished ends are all going to be tucked inside the finished ends. Really? It looks like I messed up. Let me see how badly I messed up. Did I do the same thing there? That's the right side. That's the wrong side. I did. Just this one seam. I sewed them upside down. All right, let's see here. Seam ripper. Everybody's favorite tool. After all that talking about being able to see which side was right and which side was wrong, I messed it up. All right, let's see. Let's see how badly I messed this up and if I need to take more seams out. Or if I just need to be lazy and cut all new fabric. I might do that too. I could. I have plenty of fabric, I know that, because I only needed 3.2 strips and I ended up with, and I cut out 4. So I know I have plenty of fabric. All right, that is the right side. That is the wrong side. Okay, so this is correct. This is correct. Then, let's look here. And that is correct. So it's just this one seam that I did wrong. All right, and you are, so it goes that way. Let's go back to the sewing machine and try this again. Okay. Well, that's going to be that is correct. Those are both the wrong sides. All right. That is the right side. That is the wrong side. That's correct. All right, let's see if I can make this work. Might have to take another seam out. That might be wrong too, but I don't think it is. Okay, let's go. All right, so those are the rights. That's correct. Yeah, there we go. It was just that one. See, these things happen. All right. Got all the rest of it right, just that one seam right in the middle. Doesn't that just, the middle one? Okay. Back to folding in half. And that's how I found it, because I got to that point and the seam was facing the wrong direction. I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. All right, now I'm at the seam, so I'm making sure it gets pressed nicely. I hear a kitty cat. I think it's a big white fluffy one. They were both in here at different times while I was setting up, so I didn't know if they'd make an appearance today or not. this one pressed. Seam. Well, it's pressing. I'm going to get some water. Well, and as I'm doing this, I'm trying to figure out how I want to quilt this. I know that I could do some things that would make it look really cool, but I just don't think I'm that talented. I don't have free motion down yet. I've been doing some smaller quilts, just it's like 3 layers of fabric or 2 layers of fabric and a batting. I haven't actually been piecing anything, just and practicing my free motion. But I get long strips and it looks really wonky. So I don't feel comfortable doing that yet. So I'll probably just quilt, stitch in the ditch around each of the branches of the military. Because the batting I'm using is has a 10-inch leeway. I can stitch. It can have 10 inches between quilting. So it shouldn't be that big of a problem if I just stitch around. And then am I wasting this really nice, cool thread that I bought? Probably. Because stitch in the ditch, you don't usually see that well anyway. But I think that's about as ambitious as I'm going to get with this. I just can't say. I like the way it looks. I'm really liking the way it's turned out. Y'all probably think I'm nuts because I look up there when the quilt is behind me. But I've told you before, I have a monitor in front of me that lets me see everything. And so I do like the way it's turned out. Even though it is kind of long, longer than I normally would do, but I do like the way it's turned out. So I don't want to mess it up by trying some fancy quilting idea that just gets the whole thing messed up. I'm going to use my little ruler here to roll up my binding. So that it doesn't come unfolded until I need it. I know it's not going to be all that long, but around here, kitty cats can find things that they want to play with, and I'd rather they didn't play with this and get it unfolded, because then I'd have to press it again, and I just don't feel like dealing with all that. And even though there are no kitty cats in the room right now, we don't know that they might not show up at some point in time and decide to play. Alright, there we go. Binding is taken care of. Backing is there, batting. Let's see. Alright. And is it still 10 inches? Oh, 8 inches. This is Quilter's Dream. This is Quilter's Dream, so this is only 8 inches, not 10, which is, I can't remember the name of that one. This brand is slightly cheaper, and I actually think it's smoother. I don't know what it is. I like this. So, all right. Get the binding out of the way. Let's see. Where is the edge? There's the edge. Where is the corner? There's a corner. I knew I'd find one eventually. Alright, I need a corner. And it's about that wide. By the way, this is going to turn into a cat bed by the time I'm done here. Right there. And about that long. Because one of them's going to walk in and go, ooh, somewhere to lay down on. Alright, let's see here. Where'd my clip go? There you are. We should be almost to the correct length. There's the length. Excellent. Alright, all the batting bundled up and moved out of the way. Now we need to make sure I didn't mess that all up, which if you've watched me before, you know I do. Yeah, we're a little short. Let's see. We're close. Covers it up. There we go. All right. Did you end up being the right length? Let's see. This I cut out in advance. Yep, that'll be fine. Don't fall. There we go. Yep, covers it all up. So we're good there. Okay, so now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and get set up for quilting. Alright, so we're going to be using a big spool of thread. So we pull over our little doohickey that allows for big spools of thread. And, oh, that was easy. There we go. Now, there is supposed to be a doohickey here. I don't have that doohickey. I don't know where it went. So I just improvise. It works. I forgot. I need to change out my needle. And my foot. And this is the stitch in the ditch foot, so that'll work. Okay. And I've used this needle enough, so I am going to throw it in the garbage can. And quilting needle. There we go. All right, quilting needle on. Now, put on our walking foot. Helps if you keep the screw, silly Billy. There we go. All right, I have too many things in that hand. It's not working. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Keep thinking I need to steal one of Steve's magnetic screwdrivers for when I do this, because it's always a pain in the butt. And the screw doesn't want to stay. No, that's not in there correctly. Come on. There we go. And I need a bobbin. I could have used the same thread, the thread that I'd been using. That wouldn't have hurt anything. It would have been weird because the thread I've been using is a lightweight thread. It's a 60 weight and this is a 40. So it would have pulled differently. But I want to have the red, white, and blue thread on the backing. So I am going to wind a new bobbin with this thread. Okay. Now we'll get it threaded. Oh, and I put the walking foot on wrong. Dang it. After all of that, I didn't have it on right. I think I had it on there correctly at one point, and then I slipped. All right. So this doohickey goes over that. There we go. Otherwise, the walking foot won't walk. Okay. Let's hope this works. It worked during the whole... Oh, that's going to be a problem. I always have problems using this thing because the threads all want to get all mixed up together. It's like, no, you can't do that. Come on. There's a knot, and I can't. You see me messing with it, okay. Like, you probably can't tell that I'm doing anything. I'm standing up. This green thread got twisted around my red, white, and blue thread. Like, no. Not acceptable. Alright, let's get the green thread out of the way. Hopefully that will keep it from messing up. Alright. Now, should have gone this way. Let's get the quilt. lay that there. And I'm going to take this piece here and line it up as best I can. Up as much down the middle as I can. And get some safety pins. And put our sandwich together here. Do I have safety pins over there? I do not. All right. There's one. Oops. All right. Whole bunch of them wanted to be friends. Still straight. All right. So as much as I despise doing big things, that's why we're gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go from the top to the bottom, turn it around to go bottom to the top. And then I think I'm gonna do around the border. And that will avoid too much width under the sewing machine at any point in time. Almost to the bottom. Alright. And of course, I cut the batting just a bit too small. So, I'm going to go like this. And put this under here. Is that going to work? Just a little bit more. So the area that I'm filling in right now is area that's going to be in the binding part of it. It's not in the actual quilt. Well, I mean, obviously it's part of the quilt, but it's part of the binding. It was just a hair too small. So just to make sure the binding looks consistent when I put it on, I'm adding some batting down there. So binding in that corner is going to be fun because I got things all over the place there. Okay. Let's see here. Clean this up. There we go. And all right, so stitch in the ditch around the top. From the top to the bottom, then I'm going to reverse, go from bottom to top, and then to the inside of the border. Oops, I forgot to increase my stitch length to 3.5. That's better. Okay, coming to a corner. Talia. What you doing, Talia? I have a little gray kitty cat. I have a little gray kitty cat. Meow. You okay? Okay. You doing okay? What are you getting into? What are you getting into? Callie's not in here. Coming to the bottom. Now the question becomes, do I just go across and go back up? Yeah, and then I'll do the inside border starting from down here. I can do that. Okay, so across I go. All right, and these are the two squares that were messed up. And so the points are not where they need to be. So I'm gonna have, the quilting is gonna make some adjustments to make it look better. Twisting back and forth, twisted back and forth. Almost done with this, and then we'll do the border. I don't know what I did there, but that's really off. Ooh. Okay, that did that, and now let's get the border. And that will give us our minimum of 8 inches everywhere. Or maximum of 8 inches, I should say, not minimum. all twisted back up again. Alrighty. Let's see here. Let's cut that off. The other one's on the other side. Let's go over here. And it is getting dark outside. See, and I avoided doing this video yesterday because of all the rain. I was afraid the rain pounding on the window would make too much noise. Steve said it wouldn't have, but what do I know? But I also was worried about the lighting in here. And then it goes and gets just as bad today. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's no rain yet, so we're doing okay. All right, let's trim up our batting and our backing so that everybody's even. One short side. And this one's going to be tougher because this is the one with the extra batting in it. Or with the messed up batting, I should say. Okay, and now the long sides. And remember to square it up with the cut part from the short side. And your 3.5 or 3 3/4 inch width of your border. more side. Make sure everything's straight. Square it up with your top corner. Excellent. Close that up. Set that aside. And now we're going to need our binding and the sewing machine. All right, and I want to go ahead and get this bottom corner done. So I'm going to start in that vicinity. Now we never start at a corner, we never end at a corner, we always start on a longer side, and we have a really long side to deal with, so that's cool. Where'd my pin lid go? There you are. I forgot to grab you. Well, I did grab you, and then I put you back. Don't know why. There it is. And I've got more than enough of this thread that I'm just going to go ahead and keep using it because it seems to be working and I'm happy with that. I do not keep this on the ruler. I take it off. And you do not start at the very end of this either. You want to make sure to give yourself a nice bit of length there. And this is a stitch in the ditch foot. I don't want that one. I want the other one. If your walking foot doesn't have interchangeable feet, that's perfectly acceptable. Mine does. And now I have a quarter inch foot on here, so I can see where everything is, and when I get to the corners and all that good stuff, I can see where I'm going. Now, the other thing I am going to do is I'm going to knot it. If your machine doesn't automatically have the locking stitch, just stitch forward 3 stitches and back 3 stitches. But you do want to lock at the beginning of this because later on we're going to be doing a join, and we're going to need to make sure that nothing tears out when you do it. All right. Is that where I want it to be? Yes, that's 1/4 inch. Excellent. And I'm going to need this. If you don't have a stiletto like I have, use a chopstick. They work just as well. Alright, so this is the corner where I added that batting, because I wanted to make sure that the binding sat correctly. So now I need to get the pins out of the way. Looks like we didn't cut right either. Oh well, we can live with that. Let's see here. So I'm going to follow the fabric, not the backing or the batting, because I know the fabric's square. Now, a corner. We've talked about corners before, but let's talk about them again. When you get to the corner, you want to stop 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. And you're like, well, how will you know? I know where that is. Well, my machine happens to have the gadgets that shows me. If yours doesn't, you can draw a line if you want. Okay, once you get 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric, you're going to turn your quilt and you're going to stitch off the edge. And then you're going to turn everything back. And you're going to take your chopstick and stick it underneath the binding and make it so that there is a straight line across the top, and the unfinished edge of your fabric is along the next side. Line it all up for 1/4 inch and start sewing a little bit, and then straighten everything out. And that's going to give you the ability to turn the corner and have a nice tucked corner there. Now I have no more pins. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to sew. And normally you would just keep sewing and not worry about it. I have this safety pin here and I need to get out of the way because I added batting here again just a little bit for my binding, to make sure my binding sat correctly. This safety pin out. Now for this corner, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure everything's straight and flat. And if anything's off, we're going to follow the red, white, the I Love USA fabric, the top one. The one that's on our pieced top. Okay, so here we go again. We'll get to the corner. And if you're having trouble with being too long, too many stitches where you only have a really short distance to go and your stitch is longer, just lower your stitch length. No big deal. Alright, and then we turn and we stitch off the fabric. And we turn back. And it goes underneath so that we have a straight edge with the unfinished part that we just did, and a straight unfinished edge with where we're going next. Dang it. And then we stitch a little, and then we get everything straight. And in this case, pick things up off the floor. All right. Okay, we're getting there. Well, I think I dipped in too high there. I got more than 1/4 of an inch on some of that. Fabric was moving on me. All right, let's see if I can keep this all straight. corner underneath, folded edge at the top, even with the unfinished edge. And unfinished edge matches up to unfinished edge. And we sew. And we straighten. All right, there we go. Coming up to the last corner. Straight, there we go. Fold at the top, unfinished edge to unfinished edge, and sew a little. There we go. And get everything twisted around. Let's see here. Okay, where are we at? We're still a distance away. Okay, almost to the point where we need to join. Get it a little bit further. There, that should be good. Okay, so now we have both edges here, and they need to overlap. The distance between them is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the actual overlap of the fabric. So this is piece B, because that was the second piece. This was the piece we started with, so we'll go with this as A. And they need to overlap by 2 1/4 inches. And that's only because we used a 2 1/4 inch binding. If we had used a 2 1/2 inch binding, they would need to overlap by 2 1/2 inches. So, A, B. I have a tape measure here. I know I did. There it is. So again, it's the overlap, not from one side, stitch side, or the other stitch side. It's the amount the fabric overlaps. It's going to be 2 1/4 inches. Snipped it just to make sure. I'm going to measure again. I always measure twice. Oops. So from there, yes, that is 2 1/4 inches. Now I lost it. There it is. All right. So we only had this much left over. Not that much here. So now we take this piece and put it right side up. And we take this piece and put it right side down. So our right sides are together, just like all of our other joins. You want to use the least amount of overlap as you can. And I am going to lower my stitch length, not all the way down to 1.5, but I am going to put it down to a standard 2.5, just to get these joined together. And then if you are so inclined, you can take this over to your cutting table and trim it down using the rotary cutter and the ruler. I am going to wing it, as I usually do on this one. And then of course you could also have this over there, because you should probably, you can press your fabric open and get it all nice and straight. At the ironing board, I am going to do it by hand. Again, this is how I normally do it when I get to this point. I do not mess with going over to the ironing board and pressing it. I finger press. And of course today it wants to be difficult. And then you press it down and pull it apart. And you see, you've got a nice even, you're gonna knot it at the end, or knot it at the beginning and knot it at the end. That worked. It did not. My thread came out. That's what the problem was. Let's try this again. Remember, you've got to join everything up, so you want to keep everything straight so you don't get anything cockeyed this last few stitches you have left. Alright, here we go. And now let's get the safety pins out of the way, because now we need clips. And I need to switch back to my stitch in the ditch foot. So I use the clips for the corners. Those are always the most challenging for me. And the binding needs to go over the back side. So I like to make sure it's done that way on the corner, and not right up on the corner, but somewhere in the vicinity of. It's coming this direction and going that direction. So now we've got a nice angle on the corner. And again, corners are my biggest problem, so I tend to make sure that they are nice and secure. And I'm actually going to do something different. I'm going to start, no I'm not. I was going to say, I'll just do each of the corners first. This one. Okay, so we're coming from this direction. So we go this way. And then over. Give us a nice angle. Come on, you can do this. There we go. Put one more in here, just to make sure. Okay, those are the little corners there. Let's get these two taken care of. Alright, now which, that's a problem. Up this way. Alright, so this one first. this one goes this way. And we'll go around. And quite a few people will tell you that you should do this by hand. I do not enjoy sewing by hand. I avoid sewing by hand whenever humanly possible. So I like to do this by the machine. Obviously, if you're doing this by hand, you don't need to pre-do all the corners. When you get to them, you just do them. I'll be sewing this way. In there. Oops, okay. Then over here, we will be going this way. Yes, this does look prettier if you sew it by hand and do the under stitch, whatever it's called. Whatever that stitch is called that I can't remember now. It does look prettier. I will give you that. But, like I said, I do not enjoy hand sewing. As it is, this is going to require a hanger, because it's going to be a wall. It's going to be a wall hanging. So it's going to need a hanger, which has got to be hand stitched on. And then obviously the labels are always hand stitched on. So I've already got more than enough hand stitching to do on this. I don't want to hand stitch the binding. All right, let's see how this is going to turn out. Go back down here. Start down here. Come on, let's just get it started. Once you get started, it rolls quite nicely. It's just getting started that can be challenging. All right. Nope, I lowered my stitch length. Raised my stitch length again. There we go. Now we got it going. Oh, come on, we're almost there. Twist correctly. Don't be fussy. There we go. All right, you want to be a little fussy. Let's clip you up a little bit. There we go. That going to, it seems to be going right. Okay. Okay, come on. Let's twist. I know, I just missed a whole bunch of that. Yes, I did. I could feel it as it was stitching. Wasn't going right. It was not rolling right, I could tell. Yep, it got caught wrong. The backing was messed up. Okay, let's see. Let's twist around again. Put this up here so that I know that I have to go back and fix it. Actually, yep, it was the backing that got caught. It wasn't the binding that was wrong, it was the backing. Alright, let's put you the way you're supposed to be. There we go. And some clips so I don't forget to go back and fix you. Alright. Now, back here. Nope, it's missing. You could tell that it wasn't rolling right. Okay, we're gonna cut here. Because we're close enough to the start that I'm gonna try that again. Alright. There. Let's take you out. Alright, let's see. Let's try this again. Alright, let's see where I messed up. That corner is tacked. That's good. That corner is not. I always mess up corners. I know I do. Okay. Let's see if I can get that tacked in this time. No, still didn't get it tacked down. Dang it. All right, you're gonna get stuck that way then. And reverse. And forward. There we go. And anywhere along here? Nope, we're good, we're good. Good. And then up here. Which I knew about. All right. Excellent. All right. Let's turn that light off. And that light off. Got dark over there. Let's do this. And here we go. Let's see how that gray border worked. Or gray binding. I like it. Again, you're not seeing it too well on the screen. I can see it a little bit. But that way the I Love USA is not nearly as overwhelming because the gray from the binding, the gray binding pulls out the gray that's throughout this. Okay, got it done. Took us quite a while, but we finally got it done. Bench pillows for all seasons. We've got to do December next. December has snowmen on it. I'm not understanding the pictures, but let's... no, I lied. That's January? Yes, January are snowmen, so that's different. It calls for a nice big thing of fabric that I don't have, so I'm going to have to look at that this weekend and see if I can find some holiday fabric. I have lots of little pieces of holiday fabric, but I don't think I have any large holiday fabric. I'll have to check and see. But all right, you all have a great time. We will see you next time, and don't forget to like and heart and thumbs up and whatever else you need to do so that I can get more followers, and we'll see you all